Her name was Koa, and I'm gonna stop now, because I don't want a copyright strike. Good news for fans of the Chi-Big universe, the latest entry has been released, and it's Koa and the 5 Pirates of Mara. That's right, it's the same Mara as in Summer In and Stories Of. While it does take place in the same universe, there's a bit of a twist on the gameplay itself. Join series favorite Koa and her friend Napopo in an action-packed journey through the world of Mara. Traverse wild islands, dodge cunning traps, and defeat the gnarliest pirate bosses in this loving tribute to classic platforming adventures. While they are telling me that it is a series favorite character of Koa and her friend Napopo, I have no idea who either one is, and I haven't learned a whole lot even after completing Koa and the 5 Pirates of Mara. The story is unfortunately very light while playing the game, and it's only told through a series of conversations that are on-screen text in word bubbles. These word bubbles are accompanied by your character portraits that are just a still picture that will maybe change with your next line of dialogue. And most annoyingly, all of this dialogue is just accompanied by no voiceover, but instead just the little sample of huh? What? Oh. I understand the idea of wanting to do a tribute and a throwback to how things used to be, but some things evolve for a reason. This was annoying back then, and it's even more annoying in 2023. Now that I've ended my little tirade, which I've since edited to be even less tirade-y, let's get on to the gameplay. Koa and the 5 Pirates of Mara takes place on an archipelago, and you start off with your main basic island. Quickly you'll get a map that unlocks another island, and that is the basic progression of the game, is completing challenges on one island to get a map to unlock the next. The main big islands are your usual level world maps where you have multiple stages that need to be completed for 3D platforming. You're gonna run, jump, and dodge all of the different traps as you get through and collect items. Absolutely nothing groundbreaking here, but what they do have works pretty solidly, and I had no issues with any of the controls. The controls were simple enough, with you having the choice of using the analog stick or the D-pad based on your preference for movement, and then having buttons assigned for jumping, rolling, a bomb jump, and to grab items. As you make your way through the levels, you will have shells that can be collected that are used as sort of a currency to buy items back on your main island. While these shells may be used later on to buy some eventual upgrades that help your ship get to new areas and have some new abilities, for the most part you're just going to use them to buy purely cosmetic items like shirts and backpacks. I found myself buying them just because I could and maybe to unlock an achievement or two along the way, but in the end, I didn't really care about any of them, and once I had one equipped, that's what I used for the rest of the game. So while there isn't a major incentive to get all the shells to unlock items, at least you still have that usual personal challenge that's common with 3D platformers, that you want to collect everything you can. While the levels are littered with the shells, there are some less common items that can also be found, of which there are only about 1 to 3 to find per stage. This can be in the form of finding a gear or a piece of fabric, and as usual, there is an achievement if you find all of them in the game. If merely beating a level and or collecting all of the items isn't enough for you, the speedrunning crowd will be happy to know that you also have a timer running and you get a medal based on how quickly you can complete the stage. Gotta get all those golds. Unfortunately, while there is all of this stuff to do and even leaderboards to compare yourself to others, I didn't feel that there was really a whole lot of challenge while playing the game. There is an optional relaxed mode that makes the game even easier, but I was playing on normal and I found myself not really dying all that often or even needing a checkpoint. The levels themselves have an overall decent design to them, but they're just set up in a way where there's no real immediate danger felt at any given point in time. At various points throughout these levels, you will find checkpoints, and if you do in fact find yourself dying, you'll just start right back there. To make things even easier, any items that you've collected will still have been collected. There's no need to do them again. This means that once you respawn, you can just do the quickest way to get back to where you were, where you last died. There is some light puzzle elements in terms of figuring out how to get to certain sections while collecting items, but they're pretty blatant on how to figure them out, and you're not really going to strain your brain at all. Along those same lines, the patterns that the bosses have are relatively easy to recognize as well, and they'll be easily defeated. They do try to add a little bit of variety to the levels though, where you have areas where you can swim, you have an auto run, something chasing you, or even parts where you use a hook to try to get items in the water. The graphics are also a nice throwback to the heyday of 3D platformers, where everything is nice and bright and colorful, both the levels and the characters. While not a lot of detail to go with these graphics, that's not really what they were going for. before, and it does lend to a nice art style. Also, since everything runs so well, it's really hard to complain. Since it's not that demanding, even the recommended levels of hardware is only a GTX 660. On my RTX 2060, I was able to keep it locked at 165 frames per second, which is what my monitor runs at the 1440p resolution. I really hate to sound negative, so I'm just gonna say this about the music in Koa. It exists. It's not bad, but it's not particularly good either. It's just kind of there. It really just keeps lending to that vibe of the game that everything is just kind of generic and you feel like you've heard these songs before elsewhere in other games. Coming in blind to the series, I wasn't sure what to expect, and unfortunately what I found with Koa and the 5 Pirates of Mara was a generic 3D platformer. Sure, some fun can be had while playing the game, but that can be said about a lot of other 3D platformers out there. It has a pretty short runtime, but maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing since there's not a whole lot to compel you to keep going.